Alright, so we're going to be doing the volume of a rectangular prism. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Alright, first, volume. What is volume? When you think about volume, what do you think about? Length times width times height is the volume formula for this prism, yes. But what do you think about when you think about volume? Yeah.
The inside.
Yeah, what goes inside this thing? How much can go inside? So if you're filling this up with water, or you're filling this up with Cheerios, whatever it is filling it up with. Alright, so in 7th grade, in your reference sheet, you have a volume formula. The volume is equal to, and you only have one volume formula in the reference sheet, and it is volume equals capital B times H. And this is the base, which is very important. So in order to find the volume, you're actually finding the area of the base, and you're multiplying by height. So before we find a volume, let's find the area of our base. What is the base of this prism? What's the shape of the base of this prism?
A rectangle.
Yeah, so it's sitting on this rectangle here. So we could call this the base. Now it's not always sitting on the base, and we'll see some examples later, but the base is a rectangle. Do we agree? So we got a rectangle. And how do we find the area of a rectangle? I'm going to put A sub R here. How do we find the area of a rectangle?
Length times width.
Yeah, length times width. So this capital B is going to be volume equals length times width, and then multiply by H, or height. Well, before I solve this, let me look at this prism. What is the length? What is the width? What is the height? So start there. Write the formula. Label your givens. What are you given? So you're giving a length, width, and a height. What is the length of this rectangular prism? What's the length of this rectangular prism? The length is, 8 centimeters. What's the width of this rectangular prism?
2 centimeters.
2 centimeters. And what's the height of this rectangular prism?
10 centimeters.
10 centimeters. All right, so formula, write down your givens. And lastly, let's substitute in. So volume equals 8 times 2 times 10. Right? 3 variables next to each other, length, width, and height, means all multiplication. What is 8 times 2 times 10? The answer is 160. And then we need our units. We're talking about centimeters. It's going to be centimeters cubed. Now, a prism is how many dimensions? 3 dimensions, so it should be centimeters cubed. Also, if you think about what's a centimeter times a centimeter times a centimeter, it's going to be a centimeter cubed, very similar to what's x times x times x as you get to more algebraic expressions. X cubed, very similar to that. Keep with the rectangular prism, but we're now going to talk about the surface area. Surface area is just the area of all the surfaces. How many surfaces in a rectangular prism? How many surfaces in a rectangular prism? How many? 6 surfaces. Right? So, and what's unique about this, of the 6, is always they're in pairs of 2. So we have a length here, just like our last example. We have the width here, and we have the height. Okay. So we're going to do this 2 different ways. We're going to do one. We're going to look at all the surfaces, and then we're going to make a little formula for this. So surfaces. We have the base here that we used before. That's made up of what? A rectangle, and the dimensions we're using are the length and the width. Do you agree? How many of those do we have? So I'm going to highlight those in black. So we have 2 of those. Then we have this one here in green. This is the right side, and the left side. What are the dimensions I'm using for that rectangle? What are the dimensions I'm using for that rectangle? The height and the, so I'm using the height and width, and how many do I have of those? I have 2 of those. And then lastly, I'm going to look at the front here. The front, and hard to see, and I'm looking at the back as well. That's also in the shape of a rectangle. And what dimensions am I using to find the area of those rectangles?
Length and height.
The length and the height. And how many do I have of those? times 2. So now that we have that concept down, the surface area, which is denoted by S, is equal to the first one, which is 2 times length times width, plus my second one here, which is 2 times width times height, and lastly the third one here, which is 2 times length times height. We have all our dimensions. We have a list of everything we have. Let's substitute in. S equals 2 times 8 times 2 plus 2 times 2 times 10, and lastly plus 2 times 8 times 10. What's 2 times 8 times 2? 2 times 8, 16. 16 times 2, 32, plus 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 10 is 40, plus 2 times 8 is 16 plus 10. 16 times 10 is 160. 160 and 40 is 200. 200 plus 32 is, and we're talking about area, so 232 centimeters squared, since it's area. It's three-dimensional, which leads you to believe it's going to be cubed, but since it's the outside, the surface area should be the hint that your units will be centimeters or inches or whatever units squared, not cubed. Only volume is cubed.